Hey everyone. So, getting started with your class server or your kind of EDU hub is pretty simple. I always start by just creating the server and then creating my channels. And so, if I'm doing something where I have, and I'll show you an example in a second, but if I'm doing something where I have one server for my specific course that I teach, I go through and I put in the basics of the channel. So I always have a channel for class notes and further discussion. Usually for class notes, that's more of a student-led channel. And so I really encourage the students to either take their notes in the channel directly, or if they take notes during class in another program such as Google Docs, to link them or post them somehow in the server. And then further discussion is really good for those kind of frequently asked questions that you get, especially when a major project is coming up due. And so this is really good because it kind of has the benefit of cutting down on some of the emails you'll get. So you might get tagged in the further discussion channel, but mostly students, if you kind of prep them on this and let them know ahead of time, mostly they'll just post their question, and sometimes other students will get to it first, sometimes you'll get to it first, but it usually gets answered pretty quickly, and that cuts down on the midterm avalanche of emails that you might get. This is also for, you can also have a project questions channel specifically for that and use the further discussion one for questions that they didn't get to ask in class. Sometimes we have students who have a little bit of social anxiety, so it's hard for them to kind of articulate their questions in the big group. Or sometimes you just, you think of things 3 hours later and you're like, oh man, why didn't I bring that up? So this is also a good place to do that if you want to kind of break that apart into two different channels. You can do it either way. And I always have a resources channel. So this is for posting things that I find during the week. So I know that a lot of times we'll have a writing assignment or journal assignment that has to do with like current events or things we find in pop culture. And we want to kind of curate some of the things that we're finding, but we forget to bring them up in class, or, we run out of time. This is a really good space for that, because then you can just post in the resources channel, say, hey, some of you are doing your journal entry this week on technology. Here's this cool article I found on AI. Think about maybe reading this, those sorts of things, or just resources that might help them with their projects too. And then I always have some channel that is something uplifting. So a lot of times I'll just do a basic good news channel. Sometimes I do a channel called Pet Tax where they can share pictures or videos of their pets. But it's one of the things that goes a long way towards building that classroom community, especially important in a hybrid space when you do have students who are working apart from the physical classroom. And so that's usually a good idea for them to be able to feel like a part of the class. And then I will have specific things for the course. So for this one, I just have samples, but for my writing intensive Black Media Studies course, I had examples of different Black horror movies, different examples of Afrofuturism short stories. So had a channel for Afrofuturism, had a channel for so on and so forth. So making your channels is always going to be the first step. And it's really easy to do to create a channel. You just come to the Create Channel Plus button here in your category. You don't always have to have categories, but it's good to have at least an admin category, and then you can just have like a general category. So I'm going to make a pet tax channel. And then it's just a regular text channel, so it gets added right here. Now you can add voice channels up here too, or you can add all your voice channels under voice channels. But these are just your standard kind of forums, discussion spaces, whereas this is more streaming based and talking, so video and audio. Now, this is going to look a little different if you are doing a hub like what I have. So I'm going to go ahead and go to my hub. So I have I have so many of these. So this is my University of Tampa hub. So I've got the different classes that I teach, script and visual storytelling. The data's wrong on that, but I can change that. Writing for interactive media, my fandom studies class, games and culture, and then game writing. So these are all the classes that I teach. And then my student hours courses, or my student hours channel. So each of these courses is going to have a different time that they can hop on the student hours channel and meet with me. But within these channels, or within these categories rather, I have the different channels. So class notes, samples, questions, further discussion, good news. And then what I would also have for this is scripts. So I'd have some example scripts for this one. For my game writing class, we've got weeklies because they have weekly game development exercises. I make them keep development logs as well, so they have some of those. They are required to play video games in this class, so they have the gameplay discussion channel. So you can see where the categories come in and help. So to do a category, I'm gonna just come into this open space here and right click, and you've got create channel and create category. So let's say that I have a new class that's called advanced game development. This is going to be my category. I'm going to make this a private category. Next. And we'll go over the next bit of our setup where we make our roles. But this is where I can actually come in and explain which group gets to come into this category. So I'm going to create the category, and it's private. So that means only the people with that specific role can come into this category and see the channels that are underneath it. So then I would just go through and create my channels as I would normally do. So my general channel, further discussion, questions for projects, those sorts of things. So I have my new channels there. So that's what it looks like if you have a hub where you want all of your courses in one space. You don't have to do it like this, especially if you only teach, like 1 or 2 courses, or you have a different organizational setup that you like. But if you have a bunch of different courses that you teach, instead of kind of cluttering your server list over here, that can be a way of doing things too. So that's getting started with our channels, and now I'm going to move on to talking about roles in our next video.